So my favorite show that's on TV right now just had their season finale, the show From. So I figured, why not do a review? So let's get into it. So if you've been watching From, this review will be for you. I'm not going to get deep into what happens, but long story short, it's pretty much about this town that people kind of get lost and they wind up in this town and everything's fine during the day. It's a little creepy and a little weird, but not compared to how weird it gets at night when these creatures come out from like this cave or whatever, wherever they come from. They come out at night and they come for blood. So season 4 recently just wrapped, I believe on Sunday. So, like I said, those monsters that come out at night, I think those are symbolism for the elites. We are the regular people in the town who kind of get lost there, and the elites are the monsters that come out at night. I think, it's symbolism for that, allegedly. Obviously, that's my opinion. But you almost have to become a monster to survive the town. Even the main character has to kind of make sacrifices in order to save the majority. You almost have to sacrifice the minority, just to kind of get around in the town pretty much. So there's this man in yellow who unalives one of the main characters at the end of the 3rd season. So at the beginning of this season, the man in yellow comes disguised as a girl named Sophia. And it's funny because she comes in with the priest. So she kind of plays the religious card. And it's funny because most people don't really want to deal with religious people like that. So it was kind of the perfect disguise because people aren't going to ask her too many questions. That's kind of like in real life. But the man in yellow plays games, and the elites play games because they like control. They think they're God, just like the man in yellow basically thinks he's God of this town. And you can even see him in the background on the picture. Yeah, so pretty much they just kind of not recycle, but it's like a cycle. It's like you pass away and you're kind of like reincarnated and you end up coming back to this town. So yeah, it's two main people who come back, but Ethan, he is a little boy, but I think he becomes the man in yellow eventually because he has to deal with all this horrible stuff. It ends up turning him into this horrible person, allegedly. But it's one scene when Sophia, aka the man in yellow, makes this girl named Sarah drink some water. And it made me think, because she only did it to control her. It really, Sarah thought she was going to do it and it was going to have a consequence, but it really didn't. Sophia was just testing her to make sure she still basically had her under her control, and she did. And I feel like a lot of games are played with regular people, even truthers. It's so much censorship, you have to be watered down, and they want to make sure they can control you. So Sophia even says God is testing us and allowing us to prove our faith in him. And I guess the original people in the town, they're the monsters that come out at night. Allegedly, they sacrificed the children in the town to this thing to give them eternal life, but it pretty much made them monsters. And elites, children, see where it's going, allegedly. So this one girl, Julia, she is like a story walker, but she eventually gets kind of fed up with everything because she thinks there's nothing she can do, because she kind of sees, everybody getting unalived. It's nothing good that she kind of sees with the story walking, because she can go into different parts of the story in the future or in the past. And I think she kind of represents the awakened people, kind of I don't want to say like me, but kind of like me, the awakened people who kind of know where this is going, but there's really nothing they can do, or only so much they can do. So then they kind of just, I don't know, kind of just give up, I mean, I haven't really gave up, but you know what I mean. Well, anyway, Sophia and Sarah basically end up staying together, and Sarah eventually ends up offering Sophia some help getting her some clothes and stuff, and Sophia tells Sarah that she's a good person, basically because she doesn't question the narrative really. She kind of goes along with the story, and I feel like that's how they want you to be, and they also want you to do what they say. And she basically does. So she actually kind of doesn't really mess with Sarah too much, in the moment. At least not at the moment. But it ended crazy, so I can only imagine how next season is gonna start. So it's this character, his name is Victor, and he basically grew up in the town because he was a kid when he first got there, and he watched, a lot of stuff happen, including his mom get unalived who is Tabitha, who ends up getting like reincarnated. Well, anyway, he's trying to teach Ethan how to not basically become evil and how to survive on his own. And it's like the elites, like they have to have someone to pass the torch. It's like one bad guy goes away. Like prime example is, like Diddy went to jail. So who's in charge now? I'm sure somebody, allegedly. So Victor's father is actually being tested. Sophia, she puts some of her blood in his water, and now he's like seeing like this imaginary world where the people in the imaginary world are trying to convince him that the town is fake when it's really not, and they try to convince him to unalive his son. And he's actually believing it up until they tell him Eloise, his wife who passed away, is really alive. And that part, he kind of rejects it. Like he knows like, okay, now this is getting too good to be true. And if you pay attention in the fake world, they do like a little bit too much. Like it's this one scene like where he's eating a burger and it looked like he got the burger from like, the old folks home that he's staying in, but his son popped some cheese like out of nowhere. And it's like, come on, like he just brought some provolone cheese from the house. How did he know they was gonna be serving burgers that day? You know what I mean? If like you really think about it, it's like it's too good to be true. It's clearly not real, and the town is the real, is the real place that he's at. So Sophia also made a bargain with this girl named Clara, or I guess the man in yellow made this bargain with this girl named Clara when she first got there. So now Sophia basically reveals, who she really is to Clara, and she makes her start do her bidding as well. She's actually forcing her to help with her little games and stuff. And Sophia even cuts both their hands so she can like be in her blood and have even more control over her. Yeah, it was a lot. It's this other boy, I think his name is Elgin. He actually was offered a bargain as well, but he declined it, and Sophia unalived him. He actually just started praying. He never actually said no, like he just started praying. So, yeah, that scene was actually kind of deep. This whole last episode was really crazy. So anyway, every night when the creatures come out, they have these protection stones that they hang up in their homes. Well, Sophia gets Clara to go around, and they both take the stones out of all the houses, and nobody in the town knows. So at nighttime, they're not going to have any protection from the creatures that come out. And if you're not careful, in the real world, we're at a time where they're taking people's protections. They're taking away rights. They're forcing you to get certain stuff at times. And yeah, so it's definitely parallels, I think, with the real world and this show. So anyway, Victor and his father, like they're sitting down in the last episode and they're talking, and Victor's father actually tries to unalive him. Luckily, Ethan, the kid who becomes the man in yellow, is the one who walks in. Ethan actually has on a little yellow on the father's, and the father's sitting on a bed. On the bed, there's like this pillow with a little yellow tinge to it, and Victor is sitting on a yellow chair. So, and even the room, it has a lot of yellow hues. So it's all about this man in yellow, because the man in yellow is the one who convinced the father to try to unalive Victor. And Ethan, he's the one who stopped him from unaliving Victor. He stopped Victor's dad from unaliving him. So it's very interesting. The man in yellow set that in motion, and the man in yellow is the one who stopped it seems like. So very interesting. The writers is definitely on their shit. So here is Sophia. She did an excellent job. Definitely had me hating her all season. Everything I said in this video was for entertainment purposes only. This is 100% my opinion. The views expressed in this video are 100% alleged. Be sure to like, share, and follow, but only if you're interested, because you never want to miss anything.